Hey, Dr. Ray here, founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday evening math sessions featuring our math specialist and your math specialist, Amy Sink. In the next hour, Amy has put together a sample set of approximately 10 practice questions that run the gamut from kindergarten levels all the way through 12th grade high school math. Now, I know you are attending here, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm doing elementary in Texas, or I'm doing elementary in Praxis, or I'm doing high school math in Florida, or middle school math in Texas. And what's going on here, right? So we're doing these sessions to help you guys out and provide you with different ways to look at problems and to build that confidence. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, one of our major objectives is to clear up the testing confusion, give you the support you deserve in order to nail your exam and be done with it. So our focus is on math. Now, are we going to be just focusing on high school math the whole hour or elementary? No. We've got a mixture here. Now, Amy's going to go through a bunch of problems. You're going to have the opportunity to download those as a PDF. So when Amy starts, just pay attention to the screen. We're going to have a message there for you so you can download the PDF in case we don't get to all the problems or want to practice on your own. She's going to do her best to go across all different grade levels. If you have a question, you feel free to ask Amy your question as well. We're teachers here too, so we can multitask. Our job is to make sure that we give you what you need to be successful. But if you're like, dang it, I didn't have any questions this week, don't worry. We'll be here next Wednesday night as well. So bring those questions with you if you want, and you could ask Amy away. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, we pride ourselves in providing you guys the support you need to pass your exam. So whether you're our Florida teachers here with our FTCE exams, our national exam Praxis peeps, big shout out to you guys out there too, and especially our newcomers to the Learning Liaisons brand, TExES Prep. So whether you're elementary, middle school, and high school, we've got your back. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get ready to learn some math, and stay tuned for the end because I'm going to jump back on to close this out. And I got a special surprise for you guys who really want to get the real deal prep and get everything you need to be successful and practice, clear up that confusion, and pass your certification exam on the next attempt. So, welcome to the Learning Liaisons community. Always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the reason why you're here, Amy. You with us, Amy? Let's get going.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Night Math Night. I am so excited to be here with you. As always, we are here every Wednesday night doing math problems to help you pass your certification exam. Like Dr. A said, I am Amy Sink. If I've not met you before, I am from Central Florida. I have been a math coach, a classroom teacher. I am now an assistant principal. And I love helping teachers pass those certification exams. So teachers, future teachers, I am here for you. I am here to support you. The Learning Liaisons is here to support you. So that's why we do this for you. Before we get started, I always like to do a little get to know you. It just helps me get to know who's in the room. So in the comment box, let me know where you're from, what test you're prepping for, and it was a long day today. So what do you do when you get home to unwind? Do you take a 10-minute walk? Do you work out? Do you take a bath? Do you sit on the couch and veg out on Netflix? What do you do to relax after a long day or a long week? Or what would you like to do? Like, you can't because you've got kids running around in your house or whatever, but like, what would be the perfect way to decompress from a day? I would say mine is working out, even though I really don't work out. I just don't. I should prioritize it, but I don't. So that would be the way that I would decompress if I could, but I come home and just go right to my little one. So where are you from? What test are you prepping for? And how do you decompress after a long day? Or how would you like to decompress after a long day? By the way, happy Mother's Day to all those moms out there. It was Mother's Day this weekend. I had a great Mother's Day. I hope that you had a great Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day. Hey, Melissa, you are taking the Florida FTCE math test. It's your second attempt. You are going to pass. I feel it in my bones. Which one are you looking to pass? FTCE is all the Florida exams. So you're looking to pass elementary, middle, high, GKT, which one? Hey, Bernadette, it's good to see you. Praxis 5165 and watching Netflix. A good Netflix show is always a good option. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get started. You like to cook? Absolutely. 13 to 15 hour days. Those are long days. They are. Florida General Knowledge Test. Hello. So you can get into your teaching program at the university. That's incredible. Yes. First through sixth for math and science. Awesome. So today is actually going to be a little bit of a geometry focus. So we are going to be looking at a geometry special today. A geometry special. So all of the problems, or most of the problems, are geometry focused. A lot of people struggle with the geometry domains. And so I put together a little geometry special for us. Hey, Hope, it's good to see you. You write fan fiction to unwind. That's incredible. That's awesome. You are welcome, Melissa. So we're going to do a little bit of geometry today. Before I get started, all right, I keep saying before I get started, in the comment box, ask me any questions that you have and let me know what specifically you want to see me go over in the upcoming weeks. So if you're really struggling with area and perimeter, or you're really struggling with quadratic functions, or you're really struggling with whatever it is, let me know in the comment box and I would be happy to include that in the upcoming sessions. So whatever it is, let me know in the comment box and I will add that to my list of things to add to the upcoming sessions. Volume. I do not have volume specifically, but I will add it to my list up here. I always keep a little list of things to go over in the upcoming weeks. So I will definitely add volume to that list. All right, let's get started. Hey, Loie, how are you? It's good to see you. All right. A circle is graphed on an XY coordinate plane. What is the coordinate of the center of the circle? Coordinate is graphed on, or a circle is graphed on an XY coordinate plane. What is the coordinate of the center of the circle? So even though my elementary people don't need to know about circles, you need to understand coordinate planes. So if you need to understand coordinate planes, I'm going to go over how to identify and how to graph. So a quick little rabbit trail, because we do have quite a few elementary people in this room. If I were to draw a coordinate grid, an XY coordinate grid, what I want you to remember is that the x-axis is the one that is horizontal, and the y-axis is vertical. So this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. X comes before y in the alphabet. So because X comes before Y in the alphabet, X comes before Y in a coordinate plane, or in a coordinate point. So we know that these are my X values, 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are my Y values, 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like when I look at my answer choices, because I always like to look at my answer choices first, it looks like they're all similar. It's all 4s and 3s. It's just whether they're positive or negative. So that said, I need to determine, do I have a positive X value or a negative X value? Do I have a positive Y value or a negative Y value? Some of you can identify that immediately by just looking at this point, because you know your quadrants. I am not that kind of person. I like to make sure by graphing it. So when I'm graphing my XY coordinates, think about this. When I look at a number line, let's pretend this is a number line with the origin being 0. Positive is to the right, negative is to the left. So my positive values are going to go to the right. My negative values are going to go to the left. Y is going to be similar. My positive values are going to go up, and my negative values are going to go down. That makes sense in our brain, right? So that said, when I'm looking at my center is right here. So when I look at my center, I need to think about what my X value is first. So my X value from the origin, I had to go left. Does that mean I'm going in the positive direction or the negative direction? That means I'm going in the negative direction. Right is positive, left is negative. So I need to count how many units negative I went. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went -4 units to the left, which is my X value. Now, from there, am I going up, which would be positive, or am I going down, which would be negative, to get to my dot? I'm going down, which means it's a negative value. So I'm going down 1, 2, 3. So my center of this circle is going to be -4, -3, which is B. Excellent job, Hope. Now, the next couple of problems are going to take this understanding and expand it for my middle school and high school people. So elementary people, even though you may not need to know the properties of a circle, you definitely need to know how to graph a coordinate point, and we just went over that. Now, which quadrant was that in? That was in quadrant 3. So quadrant 1 is going to be your positive quadrant because you're positive X, positive Y. And then it goes counterclockwise from there. So this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. That has nothing to do with this problem, but it has everything to do with what you need to know about the coordinate grid. All right, let's go to problem 2. It's another circle. It's actually the same circle, but this time they asked for the equation of the circle. So before we can do this, we need to know what the actual formula is for equation of a circle. So the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where r is your radius and hk is your center. In a non-circle, but like in your parabolas or absolute value functions, hk is your vertex, but a circle doesn't have a vertex. So the equation of the circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where h comma k is your center. Now, you'll notice that the formula has a minus sign in front of the h and the k, but the center is just h comma k. It's not negative h negative k. So what does that mean for our equation? Well, that means I'm literally going to write x minus and then whatever value my center has. Watch what that means. So we already established that our center is -4, -3. So when I write my equation, I'm going to write out the formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals, and if you've been with me for a while, you know that my iPad just likes to disconnect from StreamYard sometimes. And in fact, my tech guy showed up last week. You guys didn't see him, but I saw him from the back end because he was trying to help me figure out why it does this sometimes. And we can't figure it out. So, and it's a pretty new iPad and it's not a pretty new computer, but it is a pretty new iPad. So We're going to just reconnect. It's thinking. With that said, I'm going to go through some of the comments and see if I missed anything. Your test is June 10th. My birthday is June 14th. I'm not taking a test. My birthday is June 14th. So you're taking the test close to my birthday. All right, here we go. All right, so equals r squared. Now, I'm going to literally take my center values and plug them in for h comma k. So watch what I'm going to do here. I copy and pasted it, and I'm going to erase the h and erase the k. And I'm literally going to replace the h and the k with exactly what you see in the center, because this is where people get confused. Your birthday is not June 14th. That is awesome. I only have ever known one other person to share my birthday. Flag Day. All right, x minus -4, because h has a value of -4. Y minus -3. It is not y minus 3. It is y minus the value of the y in my center, which is k, and in this case, k is -3. This is where people make the most mistakes on these kinds of problems. What is a negative times a negative? A positive. So that actually becomes x plus 4 plus y plus 3 equals r squared. Now, when I look at my answer choices, I literally only see one answer choice that is correct. That has x minus, that has y minus, that has x minus. So I don't even need to figure out my radius. A is the only correct answer. Now, I want you to get in the habit of using those answer choices to help you. Oh, your test is June 10th as well. That's funny. Yes, good luck to you both. You've got less than a month. You've got this. All right, so get in the habit of using those answer choices to help you. Don't sit and solve an entire problem when you can eliminate answer choices, which will get you to the right answer, right? So when I only have one answer that has x plus 4, y plus 3, I don't need to figure out my r. Now, are we going to figure out the r? Absolutely, we are. We're absolutely going to figure out the r because I want you to know how. But on the test, you wouldn't need to in this specific case. Now, a little vocabulary that everybody needs to know. Circle vocabulary. This is another one of my little rabbit trails. So, we have our radius. A radius is the distance from the center of your circle to the outside of your circle. So all of these blue lines are radius. It is the distance from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. All right, I'm going to switch colors. Diameter is the distance from the outside of the circle to the outside of the circle, but it must go through the center. So those are diameters. This is not a diameter. Even though it goes from the outside of the circle to the outside of the circle, that is called a chord. Now, not everybody in this room needs to know what a chord is. Everybody needs to know radius and diameter. I'm going to color the circle in. That would be the area of the circle. And the circumference of the circle is the distance around it. It's like the perimeter of a circle, circumference. So that said, when we look at this circle, what is the radius of the circle? Well, I'm going to literally count, because in this case I can, how many spaces from the center to the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am not going to count diagonals. I'm not going to go 1, 2, 3 and a half. I'm counting units. So when I count, I'm going to count units straight down or straight across. So the radius equals 5 in this case. So when I plug in radius squared, that means it's 5 squared. 5 squared is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25, which is that. Yes, good. At the end of May, good luck to all of you. So many people taking tests so soon. You've all got this. I believe in you. All right. Actually, I have high school tutoring clients, and one of my tutoring clients, I was so worried, and they pulled out a 5, which is the highest you can get on the Algebra 1 EOC. And then another one came to me at a level 1, and they pulled out a 3. I was so proud. So if they can do it, you can do it too. Trust me. All right. Next problem. Another circle problem. Okay. So a circle is graphed on the XY coordinate plane. It has endpoints at 3, 6 and -2, 1, which create a diameter for the circle. What is the equation of this circle? What is the equation of this circle? All right, y'all, I chugged a bottle of water just before we came together. So I'm going to write a will be right back. I should not have chugged that bottle of water. So I am going to step away for 1 minute. You guys work on solving this problem. This is actually a great opportunity for you to think, how would I solve this problem? And I will be right back. All right, I'm back. So I can erase my "will be right back" message. A circle is graphed on the XY coordinate plane. It has endpoints at 3, 6, and -2, 1. Now, when we take a look at this, I'm the kind of person that immediately graphs it. So I'm going to graph this. I'm going to do a rough sketch, but I'm definitely going to graph it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 6 and -2, 1. So those are the end points of my circle. And now I need to figure out which those endpoints create a diameter. Now I did a terrible job drawing that because that should be going through the center of the circle, right? So like that should be going through the center of the circle, but it didn't. So we're going to just go ahead and move this circle just a little bit so that it goes a little bit more through the center. Which create a diameter for the circle? What is the equation of the circle? What information do I need before I figure out the equation of the circle? What information do I need? To write the equation of the circle, which we already established is x minus h squared plus, and there goes my iPad again. This is just an interesting night all around. Plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reconnect. Thinking. All right. I know that I need a radius and a center because in my equation, I have a center and a radius. So to write my equation, I'm going to need a radius and a center. So how am I going to find radius and center? Yes, Bernadette, with just the two endpoints. What am I going to do? Well, to find radius, I need the distance that the diameter is divided by 2, right? So I can use the distance formula, which is d equals the square root of x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. Yes, Bernadette. I can also use the midpoint to figure out where my center is, because if this is a diameter, then the midpoint is going to be exactly in the middle of this diameter. So then I can also use the midpoint formula, which is x plus x divided by 2 and y plus y divided by 2. GK people, these are both formulas that you need to know. So let's start with distance. I'm going to take my 2 points and I'm going to do the square root of, it doesn't matter which x you do first and which y you do first, as long as you are consistent. So if I do 3 minus negative 2 plus, then I'm going to do the 6 first. 6 minus 1. 3 minus negative 2 is actually 3 plus 2, which is 5. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 squared plus 5 squared is 25 plus 25, which is the square root of 50. So the distance between this point and this point is the square root of 50. Is that what I need? No, that's the diameter. I need the radius. So I need to divide the square root of 50 by 2 to get my radius. Now I need to find my midpoint. I'm going to switch colors. X plus x divided by 2. Y plus y divided by 2. 3 plus negative 2 is 1/2. Well, it's 1 divided by 2 and 7 divided by 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at my answer choices and see which one makes the most sense. So I already see that I have a 1 and a 3 and a 1 and a 3 for my center. This is my center. So it's not going to be A and it's not going to be B. So my options are x plus 1/2 squared plus y plus 7/2 squared, or x minus 1/2 squared and y minus 7/2 squared equals 25 divided by 2. So I really don't even need to do my r squared because the only option I have is 25 divided by 2. So I'm looking at my center. My center is positive, which means when I plug a positive number into HK, it's going to be an x minus y minus story, which means my answer is D. Now, how did they get 25 divided by 2? Great question. I'm going to take my radius and I'm going to square it. So the square root, and I'm actually going to do it in blue because that matches the patterning that I was using. So the square root of 50 divided by 2 squared is really just the square root of 50 divided by 2 times the square root of 50 divided by 2. Well, what is the square root of 50 times the square root of 50? The square root of 2,500, but I know that a square root times itself just equals the number inside. Take, for instance, this. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 equals the square root of 9. What is the square root of 9? 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. So if I multiply a square root times itself, it's going to equal that number. So this is going to end up equaling 50 divided by 2 times 2 is 4. And when I simplify that, that equals 25 divided by 2. Hey, Donna, it's good to see you. You are welcome. I just finished this problem, so that was excellent timing. It is so good to see you. All right. We are going to move on to problem number 4. Actually, we're going to skip problem number 4. We're going to move on to problem number 7. I want to do a little elementary math for us. Shown below are statements. I just dropped my pencil. Shown below are statements describing properties of quadrilaterals. Which of the following statements are always true? So I'm not looking for sometimes, I'm looking for always. And I'm going to head down to my answer choices and just kind of see what we're working with. So we have a 1, 3, 4, and 6, a 2, 4, 5, and 6, a 1, 2, 4, and 5, and a 2, 3, 5, and 6. So that tells me a whole lot of nothing is what it really does. So I'm going to look for statements that I can eliminate answer choices with. Every quadrilateral is a rectangle. I'm going to try to think of a quadrilateral that is not a rectangle so I can disprove that statement. What is the definition of a quadrilateral? A 4-sided shape. That's it. It is literally just a 4-sided shape. So can you think of a 4-sided shape that is not a rectangle? Here's one. What is that? That is a trapezoid, and it is not a rectangle. So 1 is not always true, which means I can get rid of A and C. Bernadette, I am so glad you said that. Square. A square is actually a rectangle. Let me define what a rectangle is. And I'm really glad you said that because you're not the only one that's thinking it. And I promise. A rectangle, by definition, has 90-degree angles and 2 sets of congruent parallel lines. So what you and I think of when we think of a rectangle is this. Right? That's what we think of when we think of a rectangle. But does a square qualify under those terms? Yes. A square has 90-degree angles, and a square has 2 sets of congruent parallel lines. This side is congruent to this side, and they are parallel. And this side is congruent to this side, and they are parallel. So because a square qualifies under the rectangular terms, a square is always a rectangle. But a rectangle is not always a square, as evidenced by this guy up here. Let's define a square. A square has all of this. And 4 equal sides. So because it has all the stuff a rectangle has, it's a rectangle. But it also has 4 equal sides, which is why it's not always a rectangle. A square is always a rectangle, but a rectangle is not always a square. So let's look at number 2. Now, do I really need to look at number 2? No. Why do I not need to look at number 2? This is for everybody. So this is a test-taking strategy for everybody. Why do I not need to look at number 2? Because both B and D have number 2. So I don't need to look at number 2 because they're asking for the statements that are always true, and they just told us by the fact that we eliminated A and C that number 2 is always true. So I'm not going to sit and belabor over that answer choice when I see that B and D both have it. But B and D do not both have number 3 or 4. But they both have 5 and they both have 6. So I know that number 2 is always true, number 5 is always true, and number 6 is always true, no matter what I think, right? Even if I'm like, that's wrong. Well, if it's wrong, either I'm crossed off the wrong answer choices, or I just don't truly understand the question, and that's okay. But I am confident number 1 is not always true because I know a trapezoid is not always a rectangle. So I know A and C are out, which leaves B and D. So I'm going to look at number 3 and 4 because, quite frankly, in these kinds of problems, they are giving you statements to trick you. So if there's one you're not sure about, move on to the next one. If you're like, ooh, I don't know, move on to the next one. Let's look at 3. Every parallelogram is a square. Every rectangle with 4 congruent sides is a square. Ooh, 4 is going to be really hard to disprove. So I'm going to try to disprove number 3. Every parallelogram is a square. Well, this is a parallelogram. Is that a square? Nope. So I just disproved 3, which means B is my answer. Every square is a rhombus. That is absolutely true because the definition of a rhombus is a shape with 4 equal sides. So a square is always a rhombus because it has 4 equal sides. A rhombus can also look something like this. If all of these are congruent, it looks like a pushed over square. So that is a rhombus that is not a square, but every square is a rhombus. Every quadrilateral with congruent opposite angles is a parallelogram, and that is true because a parallelogram has angles that are opposite that are true or that are congruent. Any questions about this? This always trips people up. So I want to ask, are there any questions? All right, I don't see any questions right now, so I'm going to move on to the next problem. But that was a really good conversation around quadrilaterals, parallelograms, squares, all of the quadrilaterals. Let's go ahead and go back to our circles. A circle is graphed on the XY coordinate plane. Another circle represented by the equation x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 36. A square is inscribed inside the circle. What is the area of the square? I just saw a question come across, so I'm going to go answer that really quickly. Why is 3 correct? 3 is not correct. 3 is not always true, which is why I crossed it off, which is why letter B is the correct answer, because I'm looking for choices that are always true. And 3 is not always true. Every parallelogram is not a square. We drew a parallelogram here that is not a square. I hope that makes sense. All right, back to my circle. So a circle is graphed on the coordinate plane with this equation. And a square is inscribed inside the circle. Inscribed means that it's touching the outsides of the circle, and it's not going outside of the circle, but it's also not touching the circle. So a square inscribed inside of a circle looks something like this. Okay? So, squares inscribed inside the circle. What is the area? Pay attention to what they're asking you of the square. Well, by looking at my equation, I know what my center and my radius are. So my center is 4, -2. Someone tell me why my center is 4, -2 and not -4, +2. Someone tell me why my center is 4, -2 and not -4, +2. I will go back to that question and explain why 4 is correct. Because the equation of a circle is naturally a negative. And so really I'm looking at the opposite, which is what we've talked about tonight. And then the radius is going to be 6 because this is radius squared. So the radius is going to be 6. Now, I'm going to quickly graph 4, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. There's my center. I'm going to move this guy down here. So they want to know what the area of the square is. Now, they very easily could have inscribed that square differently. They could have inscribed the square like this, where counting would not be plausible, right? So let's pretend the square is drawn like this. What do I know about my radius? My radius goes from the center to the outside, center to the outside. Radius goes like that. But I don't know what the distance of my side is. So, but I do know that this just created a right triangle. And I know that this is 6 and this is 6 because this right here is the radius of the circle. And this right here is also the radius of the circle. So by doing Pythagorean theorem, I can find what the edge of my square is. And then I can just do that times itself to find the area, right? So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. How do I know that c is the one that's missing? Because it's across from the 90-degree angle. So 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 36 is 72. The square root of c squared is c equals the square root of 72. So this equals the square root of 72. Now, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of a square root because area equals, I'm going to change colors to kind of differentiate. Area equals length times width. So the length of my square is 72. The width of my square is 72. And what did we talk about when we multiply a square root times itself? It equals itself. So my answer is C. All right, let's do one more problem, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A for a special surprise. Let's do a student error problem. Student A was asked by their teacher to find the perimeter of the shape below. Their work is shown below. Student error problems are always problems that I get special requests for. So, which of the following is most likely representative of their misconception? A. Student A does not understand the difference between area and perimeter. B. Student A does not understand that perimeter is the linear distance around the shape. C. Student A does not understand how to add 1- and 2-digit numbers. Or D. Student A does not understand the concept of perimeter and that it is the entire distance around a shape. So, they were asked to find perimeter. Let's keep in mind, perimeter is this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this. So the student did 10 plus 4 plus 6 plus 9. I'm going to confirm that the student added correctly. So 10 plus 4 is 14, check. 14 plus 6 is 20, 20 plus 9 is 29. The student understands how to add. Now, the student understands the difference between area and perimeter because area would be finding composite. So it would be finding the area of the top rectangle and then finding the area of the bottom rectangle and adding them together. They didn't do that. They didn't do 10 times 4 and then find the composite. So the student knows what area and perimeter are. So I've eliminated it down to B and D. The student doesn't understand that perimeter is the linear distance around a shape. Or the student does not understand the concept of perimeter and that it is the entire distance around a shape. Those are two very similar answers. And I want to just pause right here and say, this is where people get into trouble, not only on the math test, but on professional ed and like some of the other like teaching pedagogy questions, because they will narrow it down to two very similar answers, and then we have to differentiate. So this one says they don't understand that perimeter is a linear distance. They actually do understand that because they understand that I'm adding this distance linear plus this linear distance plus this linear distance. What they don't understand is that I also need this side and this side, and they don't understand it's the entire distance around the shape. Or they do, and they just didn't add it up. That could be too, but that wasn't one of our answer choices, which is why D is the correct misconception for this problem. All right. We have a couple more problems, but unfortunately, our time is almost up, and I want to give time for us to discuss what you need help with. So I am definitely going to go over volume problems next week. What else do you need help with before your test? We got a lot. Oh, I never went over why 4 is incorrect. Let's do that, and then let's talk about it. 4 is incorrect because every rectangle, why is 4 correct? Not incorrect. Every rectangle with 4 congruent sides is a square. So what they're saying is that I'm going to draw a rectangle, but it has to have 4 equal sides. Is the rectangle that I just drew, does it have 4 equal sides? No, these are not all equal. Well, I didn't even qualify the first part of that statement. I have to draw a rectangle with 4 equal sides. Equal, 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 equal. That's a square. Equal, 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 equal. That's a square. If it is a rectangle, it has to have 90-degree angles, which all of those do. And it has to have 2 sets of congruent parallel lines. That means that this set of lines has to be the same size and parallel, which they are. And this set of lines has to be congruent and parallel, which they are. That is the definition of a rectangle. But then, if it has 4 equal sides also, then it is a square, which is why 4 is true. That was a really good question. All right. What else do you want to see from me next week? You want to see volume. I will absolutely make sure we have volume questions next week. What else would you like to see next week? I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A, but I will hang out here and see what else you need help with. And if nobody has anything specific, that's okay. More geometry. Dividing fractions, that's a good one. Dividing fractions. And I'll see if I can't find like a word problem for that. More geometry. We will absolutely have more geometry next week for sure. Whatever is in the K through 6. All right, I will definitely cater some K through 6 FTCE for sure. All right, I'm going to hang out here for sure. But I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A, and I will look for whatever else you guys want added to next week.
All right, so wasn't that an amazing session? Now, I know, depending on what exam you have to take, you're like, man, that was great, but she didn't address everything I needed. She focused on all different questions, and I just need elementary, or I just need middle school, I just need high school. Don't worry. Since you're still with us, I've got a special surprise for you. If you use the coupon code, all capital letters, SINK35, that's SINK 35, that will take off 35% off any of our prep courses on our website at the Learning Liaisons. It doesn't have to just be math. It could be anything that you need that we offer. And this is going to be an ongoing deal for you guys who attend these live sessions, because these are great. I'm sure Amy opened your eyes to some new concepts, some new ways to tackle problems, building that confidence. but this is just a smidget of your exam, the concepts on your test. So if you want the comprehensive view with the practice with Amy, with the practice test, with the lessons and the content review, we've got your back on our video boot camps, which all of them feature Amy Sink, your math specialist. So if you want to take advantage of that, the code is SYNC35. You can use that at checkout on the learningliaisons.com website, and all that information is on our website as well, and on the bottom of the screen in this video. So we are here to help you. Once again, always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. Thank you for joining us again today, and hopefully we'll see you next week too. Talk to you soon.